Well, for the first time in 17 years, a state has executed two convicted murderers on the same day. It happened last month in Arkansas. Here in South Carolina, there have been 43 executions since 1985, but the process has come to a standstill. Many call death row in this state a place of delayed justice. So tonight, we take a look at what's causing that holdup. These are the faces of South Carolina's death row. 38 men, 17 are white, 21 are black. The last execution in 2011 of 36-year-old Jeffrey Motts. Just 2 years later, one of the drugs needed for lethal injection in South Carolina expired. Since then, the state has had no way of executing any of the 38 inmates unless they choose to die by electrocution.
I've asked my folks to go and start calling and asking companies to give us the drugs and sell us the drugs, and once we tell them what we're going to use them for lethal injection, the companies don't want anything to do with us.
Corrections boss Brian Sterling says the agency hasn't been able to get alternative drugs because pharmaceutical companies that make them have faced a lot of outside pressure to end the practice.
Anti-death penalty people have been very effective at going to these companies that supply these drugs to departments of corrections across the country and stopping them from selling the drugs to VOCs across the country.
Sterling says the agency has considered making the drugs themselves, but that could be costly. The most recent estimate coming in at about $1 million, leading Sterling to call on state leaders.
2 years ago, I went to the legislature and testified and informed that we did not have the drug, and there's no guarantee that if we did go and buy the proper equipment to make the drugs, that we could still buy the ingredients to compound the drug.
Legal experts say it's not as simple as having the drugs on hand. There's still a process in the court system.
I think it's not unusual that South Carolina, has this long length of time for the appellate process. But I do think South Carolina has a particularly high reversal rate in capital cases.
According to a local criminal justice group, more than 60% of all death sentences are overturned, and legally, no one in South Carolina is ready to be executed. Fred Singleton is the state's longest-serving death row inmate. He was initially sentenced to death in 1983 for the rape and murder of a Newberry teacher. 34 years later, he still can't be executed until he's declared mentally fit to face trial.
I cannot speak and cannot imagine what it would be like to lose a loved one and have the person sitting on death row and not have that justice delivered. I just can't even imagine what they're going through.
Now, coming up next week on Watch Fox News at 10, we speak with the daughter of a death row victim. 23 years ago, Uri Jackson was murdered in her Lexington County home, and every day her daughter hopes for some type of closure. You can hear her story next Wednesday in part 2 of our Delayed Justice special report.